All right. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited to have you over here with us. Thank you so much, for coming to this session, building everything on serverless. I'm super honored to have this amazing speaker, my friend Islam Ismail, who's the senior engineering manager at SWVL with us on this session. It's going to be a fireside chat, and on the topic of building everything on serverless. What I'll do is that I'll quickly introduce the topic, and then we can proceed with few of the things that we want to touch upon on this session. So about serverless, serverless is a cloud execution model that enables a simple, most cost efficient way to build and operate cloud native applications. And just to add more on that and to explain it more nicer, I would just give the stage to Islam, to tell us more about some of the basics about serverless, or intro about serverless.
Thanks so much, Hamza. Thanks so much for having me and for taking all the time and effort to put all this together. And hello, everyone. This is me, Islam Ismail. I'm a senior engineering manager in SWVL. As Hamza mentioned, I've been there for almost 3 years now. We joined the company when it was less than 30 engineers, and now we're quite close to 400. So it's been quite a good journey. And this is one of the hot topics that's been going around and evolving with us throughout our experience as well. Without any further ado, I would like to just go further and speak about what's serverless and how this might go forward. I believe in order to understand the topic in a more of a fruitful way and just to digest it, why this is there and why it is taking such a hype and people are looking for it, one of the most important aspects to look for how the evolution of this being coming in place. So maybe I'm just gonna go try to explain it with this slide to give everyone an understanding for. So usually, very quite early that everyone was going forward infrastructure as a service. So we have our bare metal devices being provided. We were quite responsible. Just we need to go ahead and add some sort of operating system on top of it. We add some middlewares. How we're going to be managing the timeline, how the data is going to be manipulated, and then writing our own application and start actually taking care of it and providing business logic and how we can be giving value to our customers, which is quite of a big aspect for it. And there's a lot of things that need to care of. So when the industry starts to see this and how things can be moving forward, so how can we make things much less and easier for us? So they moved and evolved to whatever is called as a platform as a service. So you don't have to worry about everything, which is pretty much what you're going to be doing in the cloud. Just need to worry about your data and your application and keep focusing on this. And even though it's providing such an aspect, it's been going in a good state. It was not covering all the areas that and use cases that we are actually trying to serve for everyone, especially that everything now being digitalized from the smaller thing to the big. So how can we make this evenness so we can make sure that we enable software engineer and the people who are trying to deliver value to focus on it 100% and just spend their time and effort to do this work. And this is where we start to have something that's called a serverless. And you just need to worry about your application client and the main code that you'd like to provide as your backend, providing any business logic, and go further with. And then there's definitely the whole evolution for it as a software as a service. But this is not what we're going to be focusing on. We're going to be digging deeper into serverless. Just imagine whenever you're trying to do a small task that you'd like to achieve, like when you to speak your Google Assistant or any assistant that you have, and you like just to turn the light in your device, in your room, or turn on the AC, for example. So just a trigger is a small function that you need to be provided, and it can be triggered from a voice. So it's going to be more of a function that you'd like to have, and that's why most of the IoT industry has been taking the serverless. Just get a trigger that you would like to get something done. Then you go ahead, execute the function, and then slow down. And this is one of the most common cases that we are looking for serverless. So when people are addressing things, there's a trigger, there is some sort of an event, either it's scheduled or triggered with some sort of a call and a voice, whatever it is, and you would like to execute a certain function that might be very short, going to be taking much longer time, and then this application as a whole is going to be vanishing down. This is pretty much what we're going to be looking for as a serverless. And with serverless, you're going to have two things. It's going to be function as a service, and it's going to be back end as a service. And both of them combine to be the serverless. And it's one of the common mistakes that we can find in our industry. Most of the people think that serverless is function as a service, which is totally wrong because they are not wrong. It's a subset. So function as a service is a subset of serverless, but you also can have the backend as a service. There is a lot of a lot of applications that you can try to think about serverless. As long as you're just providing a business logic, you're going to be accessing data within the cloud provider that you have at the right moment, and you can be start executing. That gives you time to focus on performance. How can we get this done? How can the runtime be affecting the runtime in a good value? One of the good things about serverless, and especially with all the providers that have been provided now, all the cloud services right now, they provide some sort of a model for serverless applications that you can scale this up and down with no time. If you have, there is a lot of demand, a lot of tasks that need to be processed, a lot of triggers that's going to be provided. This function that you wrote or this code that you wrote as the backend of the service will be scaled up to accommodate to all of those requests, and then it can be going very, very low down again once the traffic is being done, which is one of the good aspects as well. You don't have to worry about scalability, what's going to be coming there. You just need to address the right things from a perspective on how these services can be provided as an value. That's in a nutshell what is a serverless and the difference between functional servers back in the service and how this all combine and how the evolution for it has been coming forward with that.
Yeah, and thank you so much for such a detailed, for explanation of the overall serverless architecture, especially differentiating between platform as a service or function as a service, right? That was like another question I wanted to ask, and especially the other things that you touched upon, on serverless, but there's few things that I wanted to ask, but before that, I just wanted to summarize the some of the main points of the serverless which you just mentioned, so that some of the students or early stage developers who are attending this session should know what actually serverless is, the overall the summary of it, which is as you mentioned, it automatically provisions the computing resources required to run applications, code and demand. Then you mentioned about, right, events and triggers, right, automatically scaling those resources ups and down response to increase or decrease the demand, right? And overall, going overall, just to touch a bit more on that, I just want to ask, you gave an example about how serverless is being used at Swivel, right? So, I mean, I just want to ask, about the advantages and disadvantages of serverless, because you mentioned about all the advantages, right? And we would love to know more on that front, and if also the serverless is good for startups or not.
Okay, that's a good aspect that we can look for. I guess I'll try to answer all your questions one by one. Short answer for our serverless good for startups or not? The answer is going to be yes. However, it can be no if you don't pay attention quite much of the use case, because this is one of the problems that when you look about serverless and any other technology. But on the way, you will see all the advantages; those things are quite good. You're adding new value, but if you just cannot can take it and apply it everywhere, because with all of this, you're gonna see the back side of it. For example, let's just go there and mention all these advantages and correlate it to one of the startups that we're going to be going forward. Let's say that we're trying to achieve maybe dispatching. I will try to make some example, an easy one. Okay, there is a certain function or a trigger that need to be done for your service. For example, are generating reports or something. So you know that you need to generate this reports, and a certain trigger is on a certain time is going to be taking some of a good amount of time to be running. So by then, serverless is going to be a good part of it. However, you cannot just take it and apply it for an ongoing task. So if you know exactly the flow that you're going to be for looking forward, how this is going to be forecasted, and the load that you have either for databases, for IOs, and every single aspect, then it doesn't make sense to go through serverless, because it's something that enables you to be triggered on a scale, on demand, rather than if you have something that's quite forecasted. And that's one of the things that serverless will be failing for you, that it's not going to be going further to solve for this use case, but will be solving for the same one, which is same thing for the startups. One of the things that's going to be an advantage for a startup, it's there is much way less things that that you need to handle, which is quite good for startups. Time is the most essential things. You're not trying to get things done as fast as you can and to the point. So there are a lot of other things, especially when it comes to startup and early stage, that you need to try a few things, get things up and running, not to worry about it. Then you're gonna be iterating over it. This is one other aspect. If you used it in the wrong aspect within the very high volume, definitely the cost is going to be not the most efficient, and that's one of the prices that you have to pay. And one of the other things that you might be thinking about as a disadvantage for serverless as well, that you might be locked on a certain cloud provider if you didn't pay attention to the details in a way or another. So just imagine that if you're just hosting in one of the cloud platforms and you're trying to access all of the other services that they provide exclusively, like storage and data, etc., they'll be agnostic to the platform itself. You're not going to be able to take your serverless and export it on some sort of a microservice and deploy it somewhere else. You just they're tightly coupled, and that's why you need to focus on those things. Just to make more sure, how can we dig deeper into more about the advantages and disadvantages? How is going to be good for startups or not? I guess the second slide that we can have here is regarding more towards common use cases for serverless. So you can use it as one of the most things that we mentioned: the schedule, patch, the jobs, the thing that's can be done in an I/O and a parallel computational port. Definitely, any change in data captures or update data set that you're going to be having, overflow analysis that you're providing for warehouses, processing multimedia files and tasks that you don't need to do have any live updates for. You're just going to be processing and have it in place. One of the examples we mentioned, all the IoT sensors is going to be quite easy just to have a small trigger on top of it, execute a certain function, and then vanish. Definitely, it can work for some mobile backends use cases and how it will be provided. So just focusing on providing some sort of exposing endpoints, doing a certain function to any of your mobile clients. Chatbots definitely and scaling them. Just imagine you're trying to implement that chatbot helper using multiple APIs and just providing some of your logic that need to be there. And at a certain moment, you have very few people and at the time you don't have zero traffic, and how this code can be scaling up and down. Definitely some of the HTTP requests
Islam, you're on mute. Yeah, you got on mute.
where did you lost?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So just saying those are most of the things that you can see as most of the common use cases, and could be an advantage. And other than disadvantage that you can take if you're trying to run some sort of a simulation for maybe solving for salesman travel problem. It's not going to be that easy to just go ahead and do it in serverless. You need to go and have more of a study aspects. As you can see, most of the things are time boxed or event boxed. You just need to go ahead, execute it. Then this job is going to be vanishing. There is sometimes for serverless, there is no criticality for the task that you're going to be having in hand, and how you're going to be providing all the more challenges as well when you're going for the serverless, the high availability. How you're going to be moving forward with this? How you're making sure that you're implementing it without affecting any other data, and if you're running things in parallel. So it's like more of a Swiss knife. How can you use it? You can score the things quite fast with it, or you can simply cut off your hand if you didn't pay much attention.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Islam, for especially for sharing these common use cases for serverless platforms. Because a lot of developers, they're super good with the tech, right? That they're already using, and they want to explore such platform. But at times they want to relate to the products that they're building, or to the with the stuff that they're already doing. And I believe one of the ways to actually explore serverless for them is going to be what they can do is that they can just start implementing or start plugging serverless on the some of the existing stuff that they're already doing, instead of working on a completely new project. That's also doable, but just relating to the challenges that you're already facing in terms of if it's either it's the cost, either it's the managing the resources when it comes to all of these cloud serving cloud providers, right? But yep, since serverless is just such a hot topic and everybody wants to learn about it, I'm really sorry that we have very less time and we need to wrap up the session. But before we actually wrap up the session, I would love to request that all the participants can actually comment on this on this video stream. And even after the session, we would love to address your questions, or share some of the tools or resources with you all to explore more about serverless. And you can always reach out to us, to Islam or to myself, to learn more about, or to get any kind of resources. So, yep. Thank you so much, Islam, for your time.
Thanks so much, Hamza, and it's been quite a pleasure being with you. And thanks so much for the efforts you've been adding, you and the team as well.
Super honored and super excited to see you soon in Pakistan as well, right? Like,
Hopefully, yes. Hopefully, quite soon. Hopefully, within the coming couple of days in the Future Fest. If not, I
yes,
will do my best to be there as soon as possible.
absolutely. Take care. Take care of yourself, Islam. Thank
You
you
too,
so much,
man. Thank
everyone.
you.
Take care. Bye bye.